Good evening and welcome to the Open Mic Hour. And all I can say is thank you for joining us tonight. And what an amazing person I've got that's going to be coming on with us and joining in with us in a very few seconds. And we'll have a discussion and a little chat and a catch up how this person's been doing. So what I'm going to do is virtually introduce this person straight away. And I'm going to bring on the lovely Tina Warren to come and join me for the next hour. Good evening, young lady.
Good evening, Gary. You're making me blush.
Oh, that's all right.
That was such a lovely thing for you to say. Thank you very much. And it's a pleasure to be here. So thank you very much for this. And let's see what we're going to talk about then.
Well, anything. As again, it's an open mic. It's your hour. So again, thanks for joining us. And we have met before. And obviously, within the spiritual realm, you do get drawn to people and the lovely energies and the way people combined as well spiritually. And I must say, you're in that category where you shine. Like, you know, to me, I just see like your fairies and your pixies and everything else around you. I see your spiritual team, to me, always dancing and being around you as well. And a bag full of joy is what I see around you, you know, spiritually as well.
Very energetic spiritual team I've got, and a very loyal spiritual team. I first became aware of, I suppose, my main guide, who is my granddad. He's always with me, always on this side of me. So he passed away when I was 4. And I think that was the first real memory I've got of seeing things differently to other people. Because that's what I think it is. My perception's just different. Because I could see my granddad still there, even though he'd passed away. It's difficult to explain to my family, and it must have been quite upsetting. But obviously, as a 4-year-old, you don't realise that. But yeah, and from then, he's always been with me, always been with me.
And that alone is a gift, and to receive something like that. But when we're taken back to them times of where that really happens, to explain what's going on is like, it's a big juggle with your life and your conception of working out things of what's going on, isn't it? And it's how you, as a youngster, I feel that people are scared to say things because it could be perceived as weird or cracking up or what you're talking about and what's going on in your mind.
Well, for me, I always felt it was normal. But yes, I used to really struggle as a child telling the difference between a spirit, an energy of somebody. So somebody that had been close to someone recently, and of people. They all look the same. They all look very solid. Spirit obviously being a deceased person, and the energy of people. There was a situation when my dad walked in and I saw a lady with him, but I couldn't see her face. She was standing sort of behind him, but I couldn't see her face. And every time I tried to look at this lady, she'd move around my dad. And so I asked him who it was. There wasn't actually anyone there, but my dad was cheating, and it just come from that lady's house. I think I'd be around about 7 at that point. But I learned that it wasn't very much appreciated by my family.
Yeah, most
definitely. It certainly was not encouraged. I was not encouraged to be who I was. So I just followed a normal path, what I thought through life. Although it was still very weird, I suppose. I've always been into nature. I've always been searching for answers. I've always been looking for something. I've sometimes occasionally been a little bit naive and a little bit stupid is what I would say, especially when I was very young, because I didn't understand. So at 15, taking my friends to the local cemetery to do a Ouija board was not really a good idea when it started working and there were messages coming and I didn't know what to do with it. I have, especially when I was younger, up to my early 20s, inadvertently sort of worked with spirit in the wrong way is what I could put. So I've had quite a few experiences that weren't actually that pleasant up to that point. I always knew what I was seeing, what I was feeling, but I didn't always share it. And so as I grew older, I did notice it started to come out a little bit more if I'd had a drink. So I didn't drink on works nights out because as I moved forward in my life, I actually became a psychiatric nurse. And it was just easier not to drink on works nights out because...
With a good point with that, Tina, as well. I mean, how I find that certain people open up when they have a drink and they relax and they start to unwind from the drinking side of it and the spiritual side of it. I think that's where a lot tends to blend and flow in and flow out, basically, if you're not talking to someone directly. So I can relate with that, where you learn it very early on, where that you reduce it and you cut back on that as you go through your ages and your teens and that, as you're saying. Where you say you worked on a psychiatric ward, did you have any experience of like seeing people's souls?
Oh, yeah. Lots and lots of experiences while I was working as a nurse. There were experiences in the old hospital there that I worked, and there were things that would go on. The lift would go up and down on its own, and you would feel certain things and you could see certain things. Whenever I went to work, I pulled in as much as possible because of the type of work that I did. So it was never really a place where I would just go and pull in that energy.
So you drink it all in.
It would be too much, to be honest, because people don't generally go in those places for a holiday. There's a reason, and it's a really difficult, challenging time for anybody in that situation. And so it wouldn't be good to do that. I needed to do what I was there to do and provide the best level of care that I could provide for those people. But even said, there were still things that would come through that. So yes, and lots of people had experienced certain things. Hospitals notoriously, I think, hold a lot of energy because they're a place of high emotion. So, and I've got my own theory about energy and emotion and sort of how it impacts on places and sort of stays there, which is how I understand what a haunting is. So, you know, I've got a scientific mind, but I've got this other side of me that is very, very perceptive. I see things very, very differently. And I mean that in a literal sense as well. So, you know, I've certainly got an interest in life. And I'm glad that I stepped into the work that I did. That came at a point. I actually had stopped drinking, believe it or not. In 2012, there were huge changes for me. So big life changes, huge life changes. And I suddenly couldn't drink anymore. I went completely off alcohol.
I don't need this.
So I stopped drinking. So there wasn't really any expression of anything coming out. And I honestly believe that because I wasn't truly letting anything out, it sort of didn't do me any favours, and I became seriously ill, to the point where I was terminal, and At that point, I literally threw up my hands and said, if this is as bad as it gets, show me why I'm on this planet. And you, being a Reiki master, will understand that when my hands exploded, it was like lightning going through my hands and they felt like they'd exploded. I went, Reiki. So you can imagine, just literally like that, Reiki.
I've written it down because that was my next question.
So I obviously knew that I was going to be doing Reiki or healing. Reiki is the form of healing that I'm trained in, the same as yourself. So I knew it was that, and it was, and I didn't know what else. But I went forward and I said I would start doing Reiki and things like that. And things got better, things started to improve, and my health just turned around completely. And then my neighbour decided to pop in and tell me she was going for an angel card reading. At which point I literally flew out of the chair and I was going, I read angel cards and tarot cards and and I actually didn't. I was like, where's this coming from? I could hear the words. I knew they were coming out of my mouth. And I was like, that's not me. That's not me. But it was me. But it was me.
Yeah.
And it was me that I needed to be to sort of carry on. So
there's your massive starting point as well, isn't it, for your life?
That was my starting point. Yeah.
We've got some lovely questions coming in as well, Tina, as well. So thanks for everyone that's tuning in as well. Jenny John Hammond said, did you, touching back to, was you frightened basically as a youngster when you started having these senses?
No. It didn't seem any different. It didn't feel any different. It just felt so natural, the same as everything else. So, you know, it didn't frighten me at all. I think there were other things as a child that frightened me, but not this. This has always been, if anything, this has been my comfort.
Yeah.
So yeah, but never fearful.
And I do know you virtually at one point give your job up to do what you're doing as well now, aren't you?
Yeah, I did. Oh, can I just add on to that question? As a young child, not fearful. When I was dicking around as a teenager, I scared myself then. I did scare myself then. So hands up to that one.
That's your learning path, isn't it? That's your. Yeah. It's like I always say to people, don't do what you don't know, if you get what I mean. You've got to have a better understanding, and as you go through your life path, you get a better understanding. So as the Reiki side of it as well, and you got that receiving of like the thunderbolt and the energy bolt, I feel that's the connection with the universe, and the universe's energy is the way we believe it and perceive it. You can't describe that to somebody. So when we're doing healing and we're helping people, and you get an archangel come into the room, or you get a higher energy or a positivity come in the room, sometimes you can't look up to see what it is and acknowledge it because you're just the middle person. But I always feel like I'm bowing to hierarchy.
When I do Reiki, that's really interesting that you're saying that, because yes, with the energies, but it feels almost as if I'm within their energy field. So I've stepped into their energy field. But what happens quite often is I have hands come through my hands, but they're always hands of their loved ones. So they come through and they'll show me different things, not just with the hands. I get shown different things as a visual representation, and I get shown them in my own body. So it's like someone's poking me in certain places, and it's like, so if you've seen my readings, and I know you've seen my readings, Garry, I've read for you a couple of times, as you have read for me as well. So, you know, and feel things, and it's like I'm being poked or straight, and they're all different sort of levels of sort of tension. Some can be very light, some can be quite hard, some can actually physically knock me forward. But that's when I'm doing the work that I'm doing. But I that's how I work. I've never learned how to be a medium, and I didn't start out knowing I was doing that. Just the Reiki and then the tarot. And you're right. The universe conspired at that point when I announced I was doing both. And there was a huge incident at work, and I was involved in that incident, but I was off work for 6 months. Actually, I was off work. But during that time, I recognised I was given an opportunity to at least practice doing a reading, because I'd never learnt the cards. I still have never learnt the cards. I use the cards as a tool because they change each time that I use them, because the person's different. So that's how it works with me.
Do you find that people are sat before you, Tina, that the information's already coming out before you virtually pick the card? When there's a stronger link and a connection.
There are various ways. Obviously, we're doing so much stuff online. This is the only time I do face to face. I quite often have the person at the side of me, and so we both sitting side by side rather than face to face. But if I'm with a person, then generally it can be before they've even arrived, I'm picking stuff up. But generally as they come in, I'll just get a rush of energy. I quite often randomly come out with some nonsense, and I'm like, I don't know why I've said that. And as soon as I start the reading, it all makes sense. So that's quite often how it works. And yes, it all comes at once. The live readings are probably a better example of that, because private readings are a lot longer. And what happens with that is when I say their name, it's just like, and I've just got all of this stuff, but then I have to sort of shake it off so I can say the next one. So yeah, and that's just if you're an empath, if you've got anyone on here that is an empath or extremely sensitive to spirit or energy, that's all that is. So that's what I'm doing. I think that's what happens. So then I have to translate what I'm getting, and then I pull a card, and the card normally sort of will clarify something, or it will just enhance what I've already said. But yeah, I certainly wouldn't go back to nursing ever. I tried it. I did go back 3 weeks. I went back for 3 weeks and 3 days, and I left.
I think
that was in 2015.
All right, okay. I think going back to the teen side and where you stepped away from the Ouija board and that sensation, was you seeing spirits like walking through walls or churchyards? Was you drawn to certain places in that period before you like stopped drinking in your teens? Was you drawn to trying to find out more?
Always. But there were certain things that felt very comforting, and certain things that sort of did scare me a little bit because I didn't understand, obviously. But yeah, always, because it's and energies in places. I've always loved being out in nature and in the woods, and I grew up in the middle of a Birmingham suburb, if you couldn't tell by my really lovely accent. And not very many trees, but there were if you walked around a little bit. So there tended to be around older places and things like that. So yes, you would definitely get lots of different experiences in those places. So I love the woods because I love the energy of it.
Yeah.
And yes, the elementals.
Yes.
So yeah, and that stayed with me forever. I think I must have been a tree in a previous life or something.
Well, I'll jump back onto that question in a minute. I'll ask lovely David has said, how long is it when you have Reiki, does it last for, do you believe? And when it's been done over the last 3 or 4 days, is it before it starts wearing off? How would you try and...
Oh, right, okay. When you have Reiki, if I were to give someone a session of Reiki, I would allow at least that long for things to start moving, things to start working. There can be an instant relief or release. There can be, an instant uplift, and you can feel better. But for it to actually, your body to catch up with the shift in energy, it takes a little bit of time. So I think Reiki can it initiates something, and that's a process that can be carried on. And it's almost then further sessions of Reiki build on what's already there. And because you are an intermediary in that process, it carries on without you. So I think it lasts a little bit longer than most people think, because it works its way through the system. It's worked in the energy field, and it has to come through these layers and shift through the body, which is why there's often a detoxing.
Yes. I always find as well that I try to explain to people the whole learning folder that we go through, and can take a 12-month period to learn up to your masters and be longer, that Reiki energy will go to where it's needed and required. So if somebody comes to you with an ailment of a sore shoulder, say, or they've had that, and then they might have had problems elsewhere, then it helps with their causes of that as well, which we all know that side of it. Again, I've seen some mind-blowing, amazing things change people's lives. It changed my life.
I've got to admit, as much as I took up the Reiki and everything, I'd already been a Reiki practitioner for a number of years at that point. Not a practitioner. Yes, so I was a Reiki practitioner at that point. I'd done my Reiki 1, and I was Reiki 1 for, I think, 3 or 4 years before I did my Reiki 2. And I did my Reiki 2 before I became ill. So I was actually a Reiki practitioner at that point, and that was the day I started doing self-healing. And then obviously my health improved. It's because of everything that changed with me. Then out of gratitude, I just started sending it. So every day since that was 2014, that started. In March 2014, that was. So pretty much every day apart from one day, I've sent healing since then. So, and then that grew into a healing circle.
And did I hear rightly that you've sent some healing over to a famous gentleman over in America? Can you tell us anything about that? Well, I'm going to say one of my very people I'm drawn to.
I'll have to go through my old photographs, but yes, I've got photographs. I was actually at a paranormal convention at Warwick Castle a few years ago. I think it was 3 years ago. I don't know. It's irrelevant. And I met a lot of quite famous American paranormal people, and some very interesting people from the UK as well. But yes, I gave Reiki to John Zaffia at Warwick Castle, and there are pictures to prove it. they're probably way back on my page on Facebook, to be honest, or I may never have shared them, because
when we first had a little chat backstage as well, I said, Tina, have you done any books? And you said to Garry, no, I've not done any books, but I could write 20.
Yeah.
If there's any ghost people there, ghost writers there that this gets to.
Oh, please. That would be just perfect, wouldn't it? A ghost writer for a medium.
Ghost writer for a medium. I am seeing 5 books. Now, I know you've got some shelves behind you with books on. Is there anything that you've been drawn to around learning a different perspective on the approach with reading a book, or somebody else is learning you have a little look at this, have a little look at that? Could you recommend anything?
What I would say with books is remember that a book is written by a person or a group of people that are sharing their experience and their opinions. So sometimes if you're reading a book and you think, well, I'm doing it wrong because this says I've got to do it this way, what I always would suggest to anybody is take what resonates with you, take what feels right for you and what sits comfortably with you, because we've all got our own viewpoints and we've all got our own opinions on things, and we will all do things ever so slightly differently. So it, you know, if anything, that don't consume the whole of a book and think it is law.
Yeah.
Use what fits you, because like I say, we're all slightly different. We could all read the same book and get different things from it. So, you know, and it's about, I think that's the most important thing. Also, I use a lot of books for reference rather than sit and go through.
Yeah.
So I'll flick through a book.
You pick the bones out of the specifics.
And then I'll use books for reference. And sometimes, I don't know, I've got I'm doing some aura workshops at the moment, and while I don't want to just read out of a book, because I don't need to do that, to be honest. I did need to reference certain names, so I might use it as a reminder, and so use certain names. And it was the seven layers of the energy field around us, only because they're called different things in different places. And I can't always remember them because I don't work like that. I know where I'm working, but it's very interesting, that is, and that's a lovely part of Reiki as well. Working with energy.
Also, a question coming from Anna McCoy. Have you ever felt a negative spirit energy while doing a reading? Do you feel that somebody's like energy change when you start reading sometimes and they step in?
Only once. And I've done a lot of readings, an awful lot of readings. And this was actually someone that came to my house. But that was only once. There were 2 people that came, and straight away I didn't feel very comfortable. And literally I started reading, and as I started reading, it just felt cloying. And it just did not feel good at all. The lady I was reading for felt sort of bad enough. It's the only one. But the one after, that just no way was I going to read. No way. So I actually stopped the reading and said I didn't feel that I could actually do it. Didn't charge them any money and let them go. And then staged my living room.
I remember a certain situation where a lady came for a reading, and I was in one of the magazines, and they were quite local, so they booked the reading and they come along, and nice to meet them and that and all that, and everything was fine, and everything I said, they just kept saying no, no, no. And this was on for an hour, so I just kept going, and it was about 45 minutes, the reading, to an hour. I said, it's okay, I'm just gonna confirm everything I've said now, because you've said no to everything. And I just phoned a friend, and they work blind, and I said, can you just confirm the spirits that I've described to the person that sat before me? And they were out in the hallway, and the lady sat there, and the people I was tuning into, that was talking to, that works with me, they were like, yeah, there's a gentleman here with this, describing them and everything, and they were virtually what she was describing, backing it up to what I'd said. Lady's face just dropped. And sometimes you do get people before you that test you.
I've only had one that's actually done that, and her sister was in the room, and she kept looking at her and saying, you're lying. She kept doing that, but it became very clear why she did it at the end, because she said, no, I don't agree with anything that you said, I'm not paying you. And I thought, that's why you've done it.
Yeah.
That's why that was when I very first started. That was, you
get to know the testing signs that your team are talking to you prior to that, and your team will guide you into the certain situation where it's like, it's okay. It's not very often I've stopped the reading. I've just gone with it and flowed with it. Have you ever been drawn to doing any platform work or standing on stage?
I do sort of, probably not stand on stage, but I walk around a pub. I've done a few events in pubs with like 40 people and, you know, groups of people, and I've gone round and done that. But I am a bit of a glutton for punishment, and if there's 40 people, I've done various events. I've had a few hairy moments doing events, but I would read for everybody. Everyone gets a reading. So if it's not a message from spirit, everyone gets a card, and I'll do it on the spot, quick card as well. So I do give myself an awful lot of work to do when I go anywhere. I do various functions. I did a Peaky Blinders ball. Which,
it's because I could see Peaky Blinders when you were saying about Birmingham before.
It was an amazing night. I was dressed as a gypsy. Really, really good night. So excellent. I did about 50 readings that night, but I had to hide in the cloakroom, but they found me in the cloakroom. So I ended up trying to get away. I had to hide in the bushes so I could leave that. I think I did 55 readings that night, but it was an amazing night. And then I did a ball, a students' ball. It was for models and things. They all spoke French anyway. That was scary because I was in a cellar, in a nightclub in the cellar. I think it was in Leamington or Stratford, one of those places. They were all trying to crowd in. I was like, oh my God. So that was the first time I had a bodyguard. That was interesting. Yeah, I've had some interesting moments. I've worked in some amazing places.
Hopefully he was a well butch chap as well. Like, hope he was a true bodyguard. Like,
he was quite hench.
You know, I've seen some amazing mediums work, and I've been around some amazing mediums as well. But when you're actually trying to explain that you're sat in the power, it's like if you're on stage and you're in the platform and you open up to connect, you're in the power. So to me, one of the most uplifting times I've ever had is where we keep going. Like you said, you've done 50, 55 readings, and when you're ongoing and you have that dip of energy, and then 2 nights later I'll be in a spiritual church and I'm like, boom, revitalized. The energy just
it's I suppose you get a bit of a hangover, don't you? People ask me quite often at events or wherever I'm doing, and they'll say, do you get tired? Not when I'm working, it's the opposite. It's almost it revitalizes you. But the next morning, it can be a bit of a hangover. You can feel tired the next morning. So that's how I am after it. I've done lots and lots, but I can't generally go to sleep, so that's probably why I'm tired.
Because do you actually, like, when I'm not working and I'm not open, I ask spirits to wait outside, basically, and my house is my house and all that. So to me, I feel that you're not possibly shutting down as much as you should do, and like, to me, there's pixies there, there's fairies there, I see the valleys, I see like your favorite place that you like to go to when you meditate, if you get what I mean. That's what I see when I look at you. I feel like you're in your fantastic place around spirit and the energies.
I see what you just described makes sense for you because that's what you do, but I've never learned it. I'm just being me. Do you know what I mean? it is what it is. But I don't get interference. I don't sort of. I've learned to shake off energy and to clear my energy. I didn't know how to do that, and I wasn't being. I suppose when I first started, I didn't really think as much, but then it sort of became very clear I need to get rid of a lot of energy as well. So there was a lot of clearing of energy. And that come in many forms. So it was me shaking the energy off. It was people moving away. It was just very, very different things. But it's been a learning curve. When you only learn to be yourself when you're, I suppose really on this part of my journey of life, I'm still quite young because.
Yeah, most definitely.
Yeah. So
40 years ahead yet, madam. How more?
Oh, and more. I already know. I've known that one since I've been really young.
Yeah.
I've always known that one. So, which is why I was not happy when I was told things weren't right. But I've got energy in the house. There's energy in the house, but there's very beautiful earthy energy here. So it's very calming, very peaceful energy. And to be honest, most people come in. I live in a 3-bed semi, which just is a bog standard 1950s house. So it's not a modern house at all.
Yeah.
But people often say, I love your cottage. Not a cottage, but it wraps around you. People don't actually want to go once they come in. Although saying that, I love my home. It's been lovely. But oh, what a relief to get out.
Oh yeah, most definitely as well. The Anna's saying there that you're very reasonable with your prices. I always keep my prices where everyone can afford it across the board as well, because even with Reiki, it's like I'm a big believer is that I'm not a person to put a price on healing. That's the way I was always taught.
Yeah.
There's got to be that exchange. So whatever that exchange is, I'm happy,
So I do try and keep my prices reasonable for that reason, and I will always offer. I do healing every day that anyone can put their name down for, and there's a healing list. So the healing circle send together every day, and obviously because they're all over the world, we do that energetically. So we connect and collectively share. So we do that each day. And there's no charge for that. There's quite a lot that I don't charge for, but I'd like to think I always give really good value. I used to do loads and loads. I do live readings on Facebook again now. So obviously there's no charge for those. I do live interactive readings. I do charge for those now.
Yeah.
But that's £2.
Something just walked at the bottom of your screen. Is that a cat?
No.
There's something just walked at the bottom of the other side. So I'm going to go back on that about 40 minutes. I'm going to go back on that.
All right,
so it like there was a tail.
It might have been a cat. I can't see one. I can't see one. It could have been though. Because I
would like to debunk, you see.
I've got three actual living cats here, and I've got Jimmy. Jimmy is my cat that passed away when my son was born. So Jimmy appears from time to time, and he's black cat. So it's a little bit confusing because I've already got 2 black cats. So
touching back on Tina, touching back on your spiritual team where you say your granddad and stuff like that. How do you notice when there's a new guide coming in or an addition, or you notice when there's an spiritual animal that's coming in along? Do you actually link with that as well and resonate with why there's a change and what's coming in and why it's coming in?
Things will change from time to time. and it's because there are changes generally that are coming up for you, or you need to, obviously, it's to guide you into the right direction. Animals, obviously, if you've got animal guides coming in, it's not just about recognizing they're coming in spirit. Energetically, they'll come in lots of different ways, so you'll be seeing similar things. I'm seeing bees everywhere at the minute. So you'll see them. You might see. So I've seen bees. I've been to a shop. There's bees everywhere there. I clicked on YouTube. There was a hive cake or something there.
Yeah.
Then my friend posted a picture of something hanging on a bee. And then it's those sorts of things. So if you're getting things like that, then acknowledge that it's a guide. I know.
Do you see that? Yeah. Amazing.
So acknowledge that animal's coming with a message for you. So it can be quite significant. I mean, at Glastonbury once, I sat and literally was in a cloud of dragonflies. I sat with my friend. It was the most magical experience in the Chalice Well Gardens there. So yeah. As for becoming the energy of that, I've done journeying work and stepped into the energy of that. In 2012, when everything was changing, I did a shamanic workshop in that year, and we did our power animal journey. And as we were going through that journey, I was looking for my power animal, and the first two animals I saw were not right. They didn't even fit into the context of the thing. They were like transfers on my experience. They were cartoons.
Yeah.
One was a butterfly, and I said, "Are you my power animal?" Right, obviously, as you do. No, it wasn't. The next one was the deer, which is significant for me in my own personal journey. But it wasn't the deer. And so I turned around, and as I was walking, things seemed to go faster, and then I appeared to go above the bushes and then above the trees, and then I was soaring. And I got eagle eyes. But I was soaring across a valley, and I landed on top of a mountain. And I looked out over the valley, and I could see it quite distinctly. And there was a castle, and it sounds like a fairy tale. You wait. There was a castle, very distinct castle, over on the right-hand side. When I come out of that and we shared our experiences, the shaman sat there and was like, and I went, and I was like, and they went, "Do you know what happened?" And I went, "No, well, I woke up and I've just come back round." So, and that's what I said. And they went, "You shape-shifted." So, wow. But it made complete sense.
Yeah.
A year later, 18 months, it was 18 months later, I went to Poland, climbed up this mountain, which is a chakra point. I actually did some healing on that mountain, and then I did some healing on some people that came up on top of that mountain. But I moved over to the other side, and as I sat down, the whole world literally went woof. And I looked around, and again, I was the eagle with the eyes. I was in exactly the same place that I'd flown when I had that journey 18 months before. I nearly fell off the mountain.
It's unbelievable how things tie in as well, like that, isn't it? And to be honest, it is jaw-dropping. It's mind-blowing. It's speechless. It's freezing time when it happens. And when something like that happens, you're like, I knew that. You just know it's going to connect. When things connect. Tracy Hale has said she recently had a reading and she's been told she's a bit of an empath. Any advice for her in and around what she's reading?
If you're an empath, you're somebody that's very sensitive. So you're quite often drawn to this work because you're quite intrigued by spirit, because you've usually had experiences with spirit. So I would suggest a lot of people in this line of work, however you carry that out, are actually sensitive to spirit. But being an empath can actually be quite draining and quite tiring if you don't know that you are an empath. What it means is you will pick up and hold on to other people's emotions. So if you suddenly feel different, if you suddenly feel upset or angry, and you can't find a reason for it, and there are other people around you, you've probably picked up some of their energy. So a quick way to do it is to recognize it, to get rid of it, and you can just shake it off, shrug it off. And by doing that, you'll release the energy. So you can clear the energy in that way. If you don't recognize that you're an empath, you may suffer from quite strong mood swings. You may feel overwhelmed with a lot of stuff. You could be highly emotional. There could be lots and lots of things that you're experiencing, and your life can be pretty hard sometimes. So it's always worth recognizing how you feel when you feel sort of neutral. So where you feel at peace and calm, that's your neutral space. And if you're in that space before you go and meet people, anything else that you're picking up then, you'll know generally isn't yours. It's not a bad thing to keep hold of some of the good stuff.
Yeah.
You know, if someone's sending out really good energy, and you can, then actually that's not a bad thing to hold on to. It will always give you a boost. The negative energy you can clear away, because it does, that's quite sticky energy. But literally by shaking, by physically showering or seeing a shower of white light coming over you, you can protect your energy by sort of seeing yourself surrounded with white light, almost like a ball. I taught my kids from very young to bubble up.
Yeah.
Whenever they were feeling a lot of stuff or feeling worried or scared, to bubble their energy up, and things will start to dissipate, because my kids are extremely sensitive as well. So any bad stuff gets deflected from your energy field if you bubble your energy up.
Have you ever come across the saying or the understanding of, if you're in and around, say, I'm not dishing mediums or anything like that, because obviously everyone works in different ways.
Yeah.
Have you ever come across the situation where somebody will come up to you and go, "What's Joe Bloggs over there? That medium, they're a draining vampire. They'll drain all your energy off you that they can in the room." You know what I mean? So they will be classed as an energy vampire, is what I've been told a few times. Have you ever thought you've had to stand back a bit more in a corner of a room, or you've gone into a place, not shying away from people, but your team will automatically go, "Wrap up, protect yourself"?
Yeah, there's a little bit of paradoxical stuff with people like that. Energy vampires are anyone that sort of drains your energy on a level. So it could be someone that actually you consider a friend.
Yeah.
It could be someone that is in your family. But one way to realise that that's going on is that you do feel drained when you've come away from them. That if you spend a lot of time with them, then actually you get quite tired and exhausted. And they're always wanting to speak to you or do things with you or talk to you or things like that. So those quite often can be warning signs. But if you can spot it, you can generally spot them. You can generally feel it. But sometimes it's a little bit more awkward to shut yourself away, particularly if they're in a family. It's about having boundaries, I think. So it's about learning sort of to say no and putting boundaries in place and being responsible with your own energy.
Yeah, now I see it as well with your energy and what you give out as well. Some lovely comments coming in from people that's obviously had readings off you and everything. And I always feel like you're an amazing nurturing medium, amazing nurturing.
Well, that's probably the nurse in me.
Yeah.
But it's also because I was born on the 24th of the month. 2 and a 4 is a 6, and 6 is nurturing. It's all about nurture. That isn't actually my number. My number's a 7.
Okay.
So I'm 7 is where heaven joins earth. So it doesn't fit in. I've never fit in. Only now does my life actually make sense. And the more I'm moving forward, the more I'm understanding how I've been perceiving things was never wrong. So
have you done any with the numerology? Do you do anything with the stars or anything like that? It's a certain times of years with the moons. You must be very drawn to the moons, which I know I'm laughing at your own question there.
I've got I am very drawn to the moons. I work a lot with the moon's energy, because it's a very powerful. Everything I do is energy. So the mediumship, the readings, everything, I work with energy. That's how I understand it. So I'm very aware of the energetic influences of the moon and of the planets as well. But I'm not an astrologer.
No.
I'm not an astrologer. So yes, I definitely work with the moon, and at full moon, each full moon, because it's a cycle of completion, full moon marks the I do a guided healing, self-healing session in the healing circle, so we can release everything we need to, we can draw healing in for ourselves, so we're sort of energized for the next cycle.
Yeah.
So that's something I do in that one. But new moons particularly got really good energy for those new beginnings, for clearing things out, for letting things go. So no, I like moons. I do like the moon's energy, and you can work with that. So there's a time for being quiet, there's a time for being out, and there are times of balance in between those. So yeah.
An amazing way to explain that as well, where I mean, it's like I get used to the certain atmosphere with when there's a wind coming, certain people are going to react with the wind as well, and that it's going to throw them off tilt for 2 or 3 days as well. And it's like seeing a lot of rain and showers now to the end of May. It's like that was given like 7 or 8 days ago. So there's a period of 2 weeks now solid where we're just going to have sunshine, rain and scattered showers. That to me affects a lot of people as well, with the atmospheric side of it as well.
Yeah, definitely, especially if we've got storms coming or thunderstorms in particular. Do you feel the thunderstorms before they? Because a lot of people can feel thunderstorms, can't they? What do you get?
I can sit in a room and have a window open and know there's a different weather front coming in, obviously, and like a direction of the wind of the change of a wind direction as well. You just know there's a new asthmatical change in the weather as well. And it's like, I've got good friends that's worked on building sites for years, and it's like, oh, it'd be raining in 20 minutes. And you're like, what? Lovely. 20 minutes later, they get used to that pressure as well. But that's the way we work with energies, isn't it? We
all used to do this. I think this was a natural part of for us all back in the day, before we had people telling us what the weather's going to be like for the next 2 weeks. We had to rely on our senses. We had to rely on our abilities. We didn't have ways and means of doing things that we had now, so we were much more tuned into all of that energy. And I think a lot of people are sort of remembering that or rediscovering that aspect of themselves. So I think, have you noticed that more and more people are into not just paranormal stuff but psychic stuff at the moment, because they're having experiences that they've never had
that much time on their hands in their own environment, usually, especially the last 15 months or so.
Yeah, but more and more people having sort of what they'll, some weird stuff keeps happening, and it's not weird. It's not weird.
I'm going to touch back on Glastonbury because David said that's where he had his Reiki. But how did you find walking through, say, the town or the streets of Glastonbury? I've not been there. I've seen the front shops. I've seen shops I've got to go into, and I've not been to Glastonbury.
Come with me on the 27th of June because I'm walking for charity. And I'm going to end up going up on the tour. So do you want to come for a walk?
I will check my diary, young lady, and we'll get back to that. But I can see certain spiritual shops there. You know, like you walk in Chester and you go in the rows and you get drawn to going in and getting a new crystal or getting a new pack of cards. Or I just do feel that I've got good friends that's been down there many a time, and they keep saying, you've got to walk down the streets in Glastonbury.
Yeah, I think you do. Glastonbury is a very unique place. It's the heart chakra of the world for a start. It's very energetic. I've slept at Glastonbury a lot. Generally camped, but I went up market and did. I stayed in a guest house last time I was down there.
You can't plug your hair drying in the field, can you?
Pardon?
Can't plug your hair drying in the field, can you? Your hair dryer.
I ain't got one, Garry. Can't you tell? I ain't got an hair dryer. But yeah, the energy is something else. It's certainly, if you get an opportunity to go, there's lots of little alleyways. There's some really, really old buildings. There's one that actually, I don't know if they do paranormal stuff there, but you can book rooms there. I know in Elizabethan times, John Dee, Queen Elizabeth I's astrologer and angel expert, stayed at the Pilgrims in Glastonbury, and so you can actually rent rooms there. And there's lots of recorded stuff, lots and lots of recorded stuff. Very old building. Very, very interesting energy and very, very active there.
I've been
great chips as well. Absolutely fabulous chips.
Well, there we go. I'll buy you some chips, darling. Are you drawn to any other cities like York or Chester or anything like that?
York, I spent a lot of time in as a child because my step grandparents lived just outside of York. So I spent numerous weekends in York and walking around the walls and places like that. I think everywhere the energy is different everywhere. Old towns and cities. I live in Tamworth, which has got an extraordinary history for such a tiny place. This was the capital of Mercia. Right. So our castle's quite active here. In fact, I had an experience while I was still drinking, so this must have been about 2010, on the castle, where me and my friends took a glass from the pub, and I said, I'm gonna use the glass. I'm gonna ask some messages at the castle. So we sat down. The glass wouldn't work because of the surface. So I said, all right, that won't work. And I just sat there and I went, if there's anyone here, can you just give me a sign? And we were sat in front of a floodlight, and the floodlight went off. Right, my friend screamed, and I went. All I said was, "Well, that ain't nothing." I said, "I ain't even going to take that for anything." I says, "I'm walking around the castle. If that light's back on when I come back, then I'll believe it." So I said, "Come on, Fiona," my partner in crime. We walked round. And as we come back round the corner, the bloody floodlight was back on, so we ran down the ramp. But it's a very old town. Lots of old stuff. Beautiful energy, very interesting energy. Very interesting. But everywhere's got that energy. It's whether you're willing to tap in and actually sink in, because some of it's quite deep. Some of it is quite palpable. So, especially historic cities. Sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. The what you're saying about they've got their own little energies and that. I was in the I think 1985. I worked for Marks and Spencers in Chester and the financial services, and we used to go in the Falcon over lunchtime. And I'm like, I'm not a drinker, so I'm like, what am I doing here? And I'm sitting there and I'm going, there's something about this pub. There's something about this pub. And we have spells where we're not working as a younger teenager, and lo and behold, I just kept seeing like a suave chap, a very suave chap. Daniel Craig's dad used to run the Falcon in Chester, and he ended up being James Bond. But I couldn't see this energy specifically all the way, but I just kept seeing like very suave gentlemen as like
you were seeing James Bond years before James Bond appeared.
Yeah. His dad actually ran that pub for a period of time, and I think obviously he used to. I think the kids went to some private schools as well. But I was just seeing a suave character in the corner, but it wasn't with the pub. And,
no,
you know, it wasn't like the 007.
It's transparent because it was still.
It's got to develop. It's got to materialize.
Exactly. Plus, he's always got free will. So he could have chosen a different path, or he could have chosen a different direction. But ultimately, it was what made his name.
Have you ever come across anything like sliding doors or a barrier field of energy that's put before you? Like it can be a negative barrier field. I've had it a few places like Greyfriars in Edinburgh Churchyard and stuff like that, where it's like a sliding door, like we were talking about before, where we have the energy, then we're in the powers, a bit like Star Trek. Beam me up, Scotty. Have you ever had like a sliding door situation where it's like
right? The closest I can come to it, because I was just thinking about that, and it was I'm not able to move forward at that point, so it completely held me back. But I couldn't feel it. I just knew I couldn't move at all forward. And that was in Poland again. To be honest, we turned up late at the Auloverja, which is a big, huge forest. And my partner said, "Come on, let's just." It was pitch black. And he was like, "Come on, let's go in." And I said, "No, I can't." And he's like, "Why?" And I says, "I don't know. I cannot move." I realised why the next day. It was a forest in Poland. We're not in the UK. There's wolves. There's bear. There's there's what are them? Wild boar. There's all sorts of animals in there. Yeah. Plus, it's disrespectful. My first time in a new place, I like to honour the place. Yeah. I don't like to sneak in at night time. That's not honouring a place.
Do you introduce yourself through your mind when you're walking towards somewhere? Like if you're going in a building or a hotel or something, it's like, "Hi, I'm Tina."
Yeah, because otherwise I think I'd have been locked up a while ago. But yeah. It is acknowledging it when you're going over a threshold into a place, but actually approaching a place as well. Specifically where there's a change, so if you're moving from a field into the woodland, acknowledging that and sort of honouring and respecting the space. And I think that's important. I respect people's free will. I respect people's privacy, and I treat people the way I'd like to be treated myself.
Yeah,
which is, I suppose it's not always expected, but that's what I do.
I know we're over an hour and 5 minutes now as well, Tina.
Right,
and we've had an amazing catch up, and thanks for sharing all your knowledge and experience. As you were talking then, I just got in 3 days' time something very special is coming in for you, and I've written that down as well. Again, I think it's more of a part of a spiritual team. Where we talked on about cats earlier on, I've been told I'm going to be receiving a spiritual black cat, and I don't need any physical pets. But that's just bizarre when we've seen the orb coming from your face coming over this way. So if you've lost your black cat for a little while, I've been told that there's a spiritual...
It's not always with me. It only comes with me at certain times.
Right, okay. But if you lose him for a while, I've been told that I'm due a spiritual black cat as well. So we've had a fantastic night. Where can people find you, and tell us more about your exciting pages and everything else? And I know you've got emails, you've got newsletters, you've got everything. You're doing.
Oh, I'm not that organised. I'm not that
organised. You're more organised than me.
I wouldn't say that. Can you see that? Oh, hang on. Can you see that pile of paper? Oh, this is the wrong way around. That pile of paperwork. I can't point my there.
Yeah.
You feel a bit stupid. Right, I've got a website. Tina Warren Intuitive is the website.com. I've got a Facebook page. Tina Warren Intuitive Pathfinder, that says. See, it's got different things on. Pathfinder because I help people find direction, I suppose. So yeah, there's the website and my Facebook page, and I've got a community which I do a Q&A in, and that's where the healing circle is from, that community. And I do the supporters or the interactive readings a couple of times a month. And I charge £2.50 for that. There are some things that I do charge for, and then I've got the Pearls of Wisdom, which is getting a bit of a revamp, but it's a teaching and development membership. Again, nothing's very expensive. That's at the minute £8.99 or £13.99, but that's going to be £11.11p. 11.11. Me and my numbers. And then the other one is going up in June to £4.44. So if anyone wants to join it, I would say go and click on the website. But we've had an unfortunate incident with the website today, and it's no longer on there. It is, but you have to go and look for it now.
So also as well, we'll get a lovely Karen to add this onto the back end, or if there's any moderators on that can put the links and the connections on as well. It has certainly been a pleasure. I've just tied down where that black cat's coming from. It's our lovely Jennifer.
Well, actually, there's a link there for that walk. That's all I'll say.
Right, okay. That makes sense then. So you'll have to remind me of that date again for
27th of June.
June, right, okay. And that's just, is that a few days after the summer solstice?
Summer solstice is on the 21st. So it's, it's about a week after. It's about a week after.
Okay, and if there's any more questions, folks, please pop them on quickly. And then that black cat, that's just bizarre, that one. So no, it's been great. It's been fantastic to catch up. You bring an amazing energy to the with what you do and the aura around you. It's been hazy as I've been looking at you all night on the camera. It's just been quite a haze of energy around you as well. So
thank you. That was nerves.
No.
I feel all right now. I was a little bit nervous when I started, but thank you.
That tells you to be all right. It made you blush straight away. That was it.
Yeah, you did.
I've got one more question for myself. Where would you see yourself that you'd like to go moving forwards over the next 2 years, 3 years, 5 years?
I think over the next couple of years, it's about getting out and about more. It's made me realise what I really value and what I really enjoy. So there's things that are lined up this year. So I'm looking more at getting out and about, not necessarily all over the world, but I'm just looking forward to doing more and more of that work. So yeah, I've just accepted it will be what it will be.
Yeah, I found as well, but where the current situation we have gone through, that in a nice way. Everyone's had a really big, nice recap of their life and the value of the life and the value of the positivity people around them that brings to the table. And I think a lot of people's values have changed, and moving forwards, I think we're going to see a lot more smiley, happy people as we're moving forwards as well.
Yeah, I think people have started to value things differently and appreciate what they've got a little bit more. So yeah, I think there's definite positives to the whole situation. And it has given people time that they've had for themselves that they've probably never had before.
And I would safely say as well, Tina, that I do believe that people have reached out more as well.
Yeah.
Where they wouldn't have done if they were just on the normal going busy lives. They would have just like, oh no, can't do that. But again, people are here. If people inbox us, we're always happy to help. I'm a helper and a healer.
Yeah.
And it's not as much as the medium side of it. We are helpers and healers.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's fundamentally, I think that's why the healing comes first for me, because however I work, it is part of a healing process. So however that works for a person. So yeah.
No problem. Right, if you stay backstage, I'll end the broadcast. We'll have a little natter a couple of minutes before you go, and then I'll let you go and make another cup of tea. But again, thanks for tuning in for the open mic hour. Thanks for the amazing everyone. Tina for her time and her evening as well. And just stay tuned, folks. Keep on looking on the Keep On Chatting platform for more interviews and more shows that's coming up. And please join me Monday night, and I'll try and sort a guest out for Monday night. And without me diary, I'm lost. You know what I'm like. So again, thank you, Tina, for your time, and thanks for tuning in, folks.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.